In this video, we're going to look at multiplying fractions, and we're going to predict what our products will look like based on our factors. Let's just remind ourselves what multiplying with whole numbers means. If we look at 4 times 5 or 5 times 4, we know that means that my product is going to be larger than my two factors because I'm taking 4 groups of 5. Which if I have 4 groups of 5, my product is greater than 5 because I'm taking 4 of them, and I know that my product is equal to 20. If I do the commutative property, use that and reverse the numbers, it's the same thing. I have 5 groups of 4, which means I don't just have 1 4, I have 5 4s. So obviously my product is greater than 4, and my product is going to be 20. So when you multiply numbers and whole numbers that are greater than 1, my product will be larger than my two factors. 20 is greater than 5, and also 20 is also greater than 4. But now let's look at multiplying fractions and see what that means. If I have 1/2 times 6 and it equals some number, we're going to just put a question mark. Or we can reverse it again using the commutative property. 6 times 1/2, what does that look like? Well, let's predict what my question mark will be, or my product will be. Will it be greater than, less than, or equal to 6? Will it be greater than, less than, or equal to 1/2? If I think about the rule we just said, when I multiply by a whole number or a number greater than 1, my product will be greater than this factor, because this means that I have 6 halves. So I think it's going to be greater than 1/2. However, this number is less than 1, and we haven't talked about that yet. So let's take a look and see what that means. Here's our whole number 6, and we have 6 groups of 1/2. Which means I have 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1/2. And I have 6 of them. So if I have 6 halves, my product obviously has to be greater than a half because I'm taking 6 halves, which is greater than 1/2, just 1/2. So my answer is 6 halves, and that is equivalent to 3 wholes. If we look at this, this is a fraction or a number less than 1 multiplied by a whole number. So this means that I'm taking a half a group, 1/2 group of 6, or half of 6, or 1/2 of 6, which means my product has to be less than my whole number because I'm only taking a part of it. So 1/2 of 6, my question mark is equal to 3. So if I look at this, I can see that when I multiply some number by a whole number, my product will be greater. So my product of 3 is greater than 1/2. However, if I multiply a number or a whole number by some number that's less than 1, then my answer will be less than that product, because multiplying by fractions means you're taking a part of something. So our rule, when you multiply numbers that are greater than 1, or even improper fractions, because improper fractions mean greater than 1, your product will be greater than the factor or factors that it's being multiplied by. If I look at these 3 examples, when I multiply any number by a whole number or a number greater than 1, my question mark, my answer, is definitely going to be greater than 6, and it's going to be greater than 8, because I will have 6 8s or 8 6s. If if I look at the second one, this number also is greater than 1. It's a fraction, but how many 5s go into 14? It's 2 and 4/5 times 7, which means I have at least 2 more 7s, and then I have another part of a 7. So my question mark has to be greater than 7 because I have more than one 7. And then obviously it's going to be greater than 2 and 4/5 because we're taking 7 of these. 7 times 2 and 7 times 4/5. So my answer has to be greater than 14/5 because each number is being multiplied by a number greater than 1. Same thing with the last one. The last one means I have 5 of these. That means if I have 5 of these, it's greater than 1 of those. So my answer has to be greater than that factor. And 10/2 is really equal to 5. So I have more than 1 5. Whatever my answer will be, I can calculate that, but I know even from looking at it, my answer has to be greater than both of these numbers. So our next thing is if we multiply any number by 1, this is called the identity property. If you multiply by 1, you are going to get a number that is equal to the factor that is multiplied by 1. Whether your number looks like 1, which is this, any number times 1 is equal to, my question mark is going to be equal to 6. Even if this 1 looks something like this, then this number is still equal to 1, so I know my question mark is going to be equal to 5. And my question mark is also going to be greater than 1. Don't be fooled when you see something like this, because we know when the numerator and the denominator are the same, then it is equal to 1. Let's take a look at our last rule. When you multiply by fractions less than 1, then your product will be less than each of your factors or less than at least one of your factors. So if we look at 1/2 times 6 again, this is a number less than 1, so my product has to be less than 6. Because this is a whole number multiplied, my product will be greater than 1/2. However, if I have two fractions, 1/2 times 2/3 equals some number, my product, this means I'm taking a half of this number. I'm not taking more than one of it. So my answer has to be less than 2/3. And this also means that I'm taking only 2/3 of 1/2. So I'm only taking a part of a half. So my answer again has to be less than a half. So you're looking at your factors and how they're related, and that will definitely determine what your product will look like. Okay, so let's look at these examples. I'll do the first one with you to show you the format, and then you can do the pause and do the rest on your own. So we're looking at 6 times 2/3 equals some number A. We're not asking you to calculate the answer yet. We just want you to predict what your answer is going to look like. So is my answer going to be greater than, less than, or equal to 6? And is my answer going to be greater than, less than, or equal to 2/3? I know this means that there are 6 of these, so my answer has to be greater than, so I'm going to circle greater than 2/3. And at the same time, this means I'm taking just a part of 6. So my answer will also have to be less than 6. If we do calculate it, we know that this is 6 over 1 times 2/3, which is 12/3. and that is equal to 4. So that proves that my answer was less than 6 because I was taking a part of 6, and my answer is also greater than 2/3. So go ahead now and see if you can do the rest of the problems. Pause the video and then we'll start it up again and go over the answers. For this second problem, this is 2/5 of 2/3, so I'm taking this number is less than 1, which means my answer has to be less than, or my product has to be less than 2/3. And if I flip it using the commutative property, 2/3 of 2/5, again, I'm taking just a part of 2/5. My answer is also going to be less than 2/5 because I'm taking parts of parts. Both of these factors are less than 1. That means my product will be less than both factors. So if I multiply 2/5 times 2/3, I multiply my numerators. 2 times 2 is 4. 5 times 3 is 15. So 4/15, 4 pieces out of 15 pieces is smaller than both of these factors. The next one, I noticed that this is an improper fraction. So this is actually 2 and 2/5. So this factor is greater than 1, which means I need 2 of these plus another part of it. So my product has to be greater than 3/4 because I want 2 of those plus even some more. However, this is less than 1, so I'm taking a part of this. I'm taking 3/4 of this number. So my product has to be smaller than 12/5. So if we multiply, I can say 12/5 times 3/4 is 12 times 3 is 36. 5 times 4 is 20. And I can simplify. Before I could have said this was a 1. This is a 3 because I'm dividing by 4/4. Or I could also divide by 4/4 here. 36 divided by 4 is 9. 20 divided by 4 is 5. So this is 1 4/5. So this works. This number is greater than 3/4. This number or product is less than 2 2/5. In my last one, I noticed right away that 3/3 is equal to 1. So this is 1 times 1/4. I know that my answer, anything times 1, is going to equal that factor. And going the other way, if I'm taking just a part of 1, then my answer, this is 1, is going to be less than 1. And I know that 1 times 1/4 is 1/4. 1/4 is less than 1. 1/4 is equal to 1/4. So I hope this video helps you take a look at your products when multiplying by fractions, whether the fractions are less than 1, equal to 1 when the numerator and denominator are the same, or greater than 1 when we have improper fractions.